We're going to do the miles per gallon program that's in the book on 78, 79, but we're going to just write it our own way, okay? And it'll be virtually the same thing, just so you know, but it'll probably look a little different because I'm going to use my own variable names and stuff. So let's just do that. Let's go to our JavaScript file that we have our source and make sure everything that's in there is commented out. Everything except function main and except the 2 curly braces. You with me? All right. And I'm going to just move all that stuff way down to the bottom. All right. So I'm going to write a comment here that's going to say this is a miles per gallon MPG program. The inputs will be miles driven, that we'll use driven, and gallons used. We will divide the miles driven by gallons used to give us the MPG. And let's see. There will be no validation done for this program. Okay? So if you want, you can do this. Alright, so it looks a little nicer. Now that's a lot of comments, but when you're first starting to put in a program, a lot of times you'll write a lot of comments. Okay? Alright, I'll leave that there for a minute so you can type that in. When we get done with this and we get it to work, we're going to move this one down and we're going to do the test scores, which is the other one. We're going to put that right up on top then. Okay? You have everything? I hate that. I shouldn't be eating because when I eat and I tape, then you can hear it be crunching. So I'm going to declare my variables. Alright, let me double check and make sure it works. I think I know what that is. Yep, need the extra paren there. In there. Alright, now let's try it. So let's assume for a second that we drove 350 miles and we used 10 gallons of gas. 350, 10 gallons, 35.00. So it does work. Alright, and I'll put that back up here. And we'll go over it in just a minute. After you put it in, save it, and then run it, make sure it works. Like I said, this is virtually the same program that's in the book on page 79. So if you fall behind typing, then just go turn to page 79. You can type in the stuff that's there. And then in just a minute, we'll do the one that's on pages 80 and 81. All right, that's it for Chapter 2 then. Now, do you understand? Look on the screen, just stop typing for a second. I purposely did this where I did this in one line and did this in another line, but I could have combined them into one line if I wanted to. Just to show you that you can do it that way. That's why I did it like this. Yeah. Let me know when you got it done, okay? Make sure, because I always forget this, 2 right parentheses there, and there, and there, because if you make one, it won't work. All right, does it work? All right, so looking at this, as it says here, you don't have to add this, but this is just the what? This is called variable declaration. You can put that in. You don't have to. I'm declaring a variable. And this is declaring it. Just this part in gray, look on the screen. That's declaring it. All right. If I say and initialization, look on the screen again. See this initialization? That's this and this and this. That's giving it an initial value. So I'm declaring three variables: miles driven, gallons used, and MPG. I'm initializing all three of them to 0. Then I'm actually reading in the values. Now if I leave it blank or put something non-numeric in any of these, the answer is going to come back NaN. Doesn't matter, it just will. So by default I've got 1,000. So if I use the default there and hit enter, then it's going to ask me this one. If I use the default and hit enter, then it should take 1,000 divided by 50, and it should say miles driven 1,000, gallons used 50, MPG 20.00. This means 2 decimal places. That 2 fixed. Maybe you figured that out already, but it's just so you knew. All right, so again, if I run this, like I said, if I do run it, not that one. If I do run it here, and I put in hello, it's not going to work. All right, it's not working because I put in a non-numeric value. Hello and goodbye. Now they're all of them are NaN. All right, but since there's no validation, how many miles did you drive? Negative 2,345. How many gallons did you use? 1. It gives me a negative miles per gallon. We'll address that later, but that's okay because there's no validation in it. So again, that's the one that's on pages 78 and 79. So let's look at the one that's on 80 and 81. Now we're going to read in 3 grades. We're going to read in 3 grades and then give the average. Make sense? All right, I'm going to just take all these lines here and I'm commenting them out. And I'll come down here and I'll do this. So the whole first program is inside of this set. And I'll run off a copy for both of you, whether you want it or not. If you don't want it, just leave it here when you leave. So that's the first program. And now I'm going to do the second one. So I'm going to grab some of this stuff. So in fact, I'm going to move that up. All right, so this is the first program. This is the miles per gallon. Now we're going to do it where we read in 3 test scores. So I'm going to grab a bunch of my code just to make it easier for myself. All right, I'm going to put it back on the top and then I'll make changes to it. So this is a test average program. Inputs, test 1, test 2, and test 3. Outputs will be test 1, test 2, test 3, and test average. We will add the 3 inputted test scores together and divide the result by 3. To get test ABG. Again, there will be no validation done for this program. All right. Again, this is the program on pages 80 and 81. I'm writing it a little different from the way they did it in the book. All right, so let's come in and put in the variables. The variables will be test 1, test 2, test 3, and test ABG. Okay, so ideally, if we do this correctly, again, these are our inputs, and we are declaring 4 variables. Last time we only had 3, but our inputs are test 1, test 2, and test 3, so they're these. Our outputs are all 3 of them, plus the test average, which is this one. Does all that make sense? All right. So, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to change. I'll change one of these. So, test 1 equals enter test score 1. We'll give it a default. Let's just give it a default of 90. Okay, that I'm just making that up. It doesn't matter. Test 2, say enter test score 2. Test 3, we'll say enter test score 3. Fix those. Now I want to show you the most important part of the program.
You should change one of those out of 90 so you can change the average.
No, that's just the default value. We can make them 80 and 70. That's totally fine. That's fine. But look on the screen, because this is where most people screw this up. Most people do this. Test 1 plus test 2 plus test 3 divided by 3. That's wrong. You have to take these and put them in parentheses. If you don't put them into parentheses, what it does is it first takes the third test score, divides just that score by 3, and then adds test 1 and test 2 to it. So you need to put in the parentheses, or like I said, or it won't work. So I'm going to grab this thing, this alert that's on the end, and I'm going to put it up here. So. And let's double check and make sure I wrote everything correctly. So there's test 1. We'll use the defaults 90, 80, 70, and our average is an 80. So it does appear as though it works. So let me put that back up there. There it is. That's everything. It's not exactly the way they've done it in the book, just so you know. The output is exactly the same, but it does look a little bit different. So we're declaring 3 variables where each one of these represents a test score, and then we're going to add them together, divide by 3, and that gives us this. We input the first score, we input the second score, we input the third score, we add the 3 up. That's why we need the parens, and we divide by 3. Oops. All right. Then we just print out everything we inputted and what we figured out. Does what's going on here make sense? All right, because I just had an epiphany. It's my own epiphany. We're only going to go through these 2 chapters today. The homework you're going to get right now for Chapter 2, I want you to key in the program that's on page 79 and to key in the program that's on page 81. You've already got a working copy if you've been typing this in, and I'm going to print these out. But I want you to type in what they have in the book so we can start seeing the difference between the way I'm writing them, which is a better way of writing them because we're separating the stuff out. And the authors this is a great book. These authors are fantastic. That said, they shouldn't be writing their JavaScript right inside of their HTML like they're doing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My hope is, because you now have an hour and 20 minutes, my hope is I'm going to give you, X points, probably 25 points, but I'd like these in if you can. Type them in now and give them to me by the end of class. And if you type them in and something doesn't work, raise your hands. Does all that make sense?
Yeah.
Do them as 2 different files. All you need, so call one of them mpg.html, call the other one like test scores or test average.html. All right? Go to it. And I will run off my copy of these. In fact, what I'll do is I will, by tomorrow, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'll just take this whole folder that had everything in it, zip it, and send it to you. The one that's on 81 and the one that's on 79. Literally, the one on page 79 has got about 15 lines in it, and the other one's got about 30 lines in it. All right, get done with those, stick them both in a folder, zip the folder, send it to me, free 25 points. Questions on what I'm asking you to do?
You want us to put like just this? You don't need to do like this.
No, I want you, like on 79, you should start with the HTML line that's in the code. You know that? So just the HTML that's there. And on 81, just the HTML that's there. That's it. If you do both those and save them and run it, you should be able to get what they show there. They give you example runs of both of them in here.